All right. Welcome everybody to the May 2025 edition of Mayday Monday. Mark, can you bring those slides up? So, you guys, this is this month's graphic. We're going to get to this in a minute, but I wanted to review real quick. If you guys remember the March Mayday Monday, again, it's all about luck of the Irish. And we talked to firefighter Richard Anderson from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Chief Juan Pablo Soto, JP Soto there, from Charlotte. If you didn't get a chance, please get back and look at that. It's a great survival story for Richard. He was trapped in this fire, and basically, once they got to him, he walked himself out, and it was a lot. There was a lot of luck on his side there, but there was also training and planning that went into being ready for this. The firefighters involved there, had plans there to get him out. And while again we hope for the best, we have to train for the worst scenario. So get back in there, look at that the March Mayday Monday, and if you can, get out and do some of the do the skills drill that was in there with the lifting, zero visibility lifting, try and find something that you can practice with. And again, while it was a great story of survival for Richard, there's also a pretty cool story about the chief, about Chief Soto and him finding his way to the fire department. So check that out if you can. Get back and look at that. This month, we have Chief Ryan Pyle here from Shawnee, Kansas. The Mayday Monday thing here is really kind of fly by night. I don't have a big staff. Here, so it's really kind of, if I can find things that I see that would be an interest, I think, to our Mayday Monday watchers, I'll reach out. And I've had good luck with that from a lot of times, but there's also been some situations where I'll call and I don't get the best response, So I had listened to the chief here went on with Rich Gasaway in his podcast. I listened to that and I said, you know what? That's going to be it's on the anniversary of this incident. The May is the anniversary, so I'm like, let me give him a call. And just so happens, I found his phone number. I found Shawnee, Kansas Fire Department phone number, and you press some buttons, and you can get your way to him. And I just cold called him one day. I'm sure he was like, "What the heck is this? Who is this guy?" This guy riding around or watching stuff on video online, and cold calls me. But I did, and he was very receptive, and I really appreciate it. And then we exchanged some stuff here, and here we are today to get this recording for the Mayday Monday. Chief, if you would take a second, just kind of introduce yourself to the crowd, and again, thank you so much for coming on. And I can't wait to find out your story and John's story.
Well, Tony, I appreciate it. And just, want to let you know it's an honor to be here. Anytime I can share John's story as we approach the 15-year anniversary, which I can't believe it, May 22nd of this year will be 15 years. A little bit about me. I'm a 28-year guy with all with Shawnee. I obviously started out as a firefighter, worked my way up to captain, battalion chief, and now I serve as the deputy chief of operations for us. We're part of we have kind of a unique, I say unique, anywhere I've spoken the country, it seems to be, there are some systems like this, but it seems more unique than not. We're part of a bigger system. We are we operate as like a county fire department without calling ourselves one. We have 9 jurisdictions in the county, and we operate seamlessly. We meet regularly. We train together. It's really a nice system. And the reason I bring that up is because it plays an important role in this fire. As if I were doing the full presentation here, you would see some truck numbers that are different than Shawnee unit numbers. And the reason is because that's how we operate. We don't do mutual aid per se. We do. It's more of an automatic aid. They come on the initial dispatch, and you may get three different cities to a first alarm structure fire. The systems runs about, I think, about 75,000 calls a year. Again, broken up into those 9 districts, but we're subject to go anywhere, and it was no exception that day.
All right. Well, don't give it away too much yet. We'll talk about the fire department makeup here in a
Okay.
minute. But let's go ahead and we'll get started. I want to feature our main guy here today. Mark, can you put the slides back up? John B. Glazer is who we're going to talk about here. So again, what I found out about John was he was born. It sounds like he was born and bred there in the area, huh? And not venturing. I
Yeah,
guess he did go away in the military, but then came back and settled in this area again, huh?
that's
So
correct.
born and
Yeah,
bred
yeah.
there,
John was a lifelong Kansas Cityan.
born in Kansas City, Missouri. Went to high school in Overland Park, University of Kansas, and then went off to the Marine Corps. But
Yep,
married his high school sweetheart, Amber, and John and Amber had 2 kids, Brecken Joseph and Emma Grace. From what I can find, what I see
yeah,
is that he was all about family, friends, and triathlons.
absolutely. Yep.
So John joined the fire department in 2004. You were already on there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I got on in 1997.
So John came on and sounds like he dove headfirst into the fire department. Right, got part of the water rescue team, part of the hazmat team, and was active in everything Shawnee Fire Department.
Yeah, he was definitely going to be upwardly mobile right from the beginning. Time of his death, he'd been on about 6 years, and I was his captain at the time. So we were on a pace to do some good things. John was definitely a rising star.
Yeah, that's seen. We see that a lot in these stories that we lost, but they made an impact what little time they were there. So, tell me about Shawnee. What I gathered is it kind of just became. I guess some people settled there after
Yeah,
what driving back and forth during the Civil War.
yeah. That's really the history of Shawnee. It wasn't well populated until the middle of the 20th century, and they really started to gain a lot of population. Again, a part of a really busy metroplex around Kansas City. I think in Johnson County there's 600,000 now or so. So it's right in the northeast part of a pretty big county around Kansas City.
Yeah, you say there's 7 different departments in this group that you guys respond in.
I'm sorry, Mark, I lost you. What'd you say?
You said that there's 7 or so departments that you respond with.
Yeah, there's about eight metro departments that we respond with, and again, it's a matter of initial dispatch. There is no call and ask for them. We can just keep calling alarm after alarm after alarm, and we don't ever have any issue. It really is a seamless system.
So humble beginnings there back in 1924. It sounds like a bunch of people got together and just decided to start a fire department with go buy a fire truck at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time?
that and yeah, that's about what happened. As a matter of fact, we have that fire truck. It's centered there in the center of that picture, so it's a definite showpiece for us. But yeah, that was one of the first engines in Shawnee, and it was just a group of people that knew they needed to accomplish a mission.
At that in 1947, it was only about a half square mile that the fire department was responsible for.
That's correct. Yep, yep. Moved up to 42 square miles now.
That's quite a jump from 1947 to now. And when did your first paid firefighter was in 1977, and then you continued to grow at after that?
Yes, the first paid chief, I believe, was Chief Minor in 1977. We became fully paid. We had a few volunteers, mostly legacy volunteers, up through I believe about 2007, and we've been on a fairly rapid growth pace ever since, and we're looking to do additional stations now. So we're continuing to grow. But yeah, rapid population growth in this, definitely in the 70s and 80s for sure.
How many how many firefighters do you have on now?
We're about 80 is our strength now. A few civilians, but again, rapidly growing. Looking to expand once again here in the real near future. We're kind of in the planning phases of that right now.
How many firefighters do you have on shift?
So we have 23 a day. So our minimum is 19, but 23 would be fully staffed a day.
So with these stations, I noticed there was no ambulances, huh?
Yeah, so they are, but it's a county-based system. It's there's a county system called Johnson County Med Act, and that's the only ones that can run in Johnson County. We do not have any private ambulances, so they handle the whole response area for the whole county.
Nice. So with that
They are housed in our. They're housed in there too as well.
in that daily staffing, what are you staffing? Four engines, a ladder truck?
We staff a tiller, a ladder out in the western part of the city, and three pumpers. So we have a daily staff of five heavies a day, and a battalion chief, of course.
I got you. Five companies and a battalion chief every day.
Yeah, and that's just within the city of Shawnee. That doesn't include our response partners. There's 50, I think 56 units a day on duty in Johnson County, fire units.
Nice. All right. So you want to get into this incident here?
Absolutely.
So this the day was it? What is this happened like after dinner, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was right after dinner. I think the call came in, Tony, about 7 o'clock at night, if I remember right. It was around that time.
Is this typical house in in Shawnee, or is this a big one?
The house, it was about 6,000 square feet.
Wow, wow.
So it was a good sized house.
And this is a neighborhood that has these size houses to go to regular.
Yeah, yeah, we have quite a mixed bag. I mean, we have 800 to 1,000 square foot houses, all the way up to 6 and 7,000 square foot houses. So this would have definitely been on the bigger end. It's not an area we go to a lot, but um, we do run some calls in there. Those calls in that area are increasing for sure. The demographics are changing a little bit.
All right, so fire started in this area here.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. They had a lower garage. They had an upper garage and a lower garage. The garage was on basically on the BC corner where the bulk of the fire was.
Yeah. So the garage that garage that we're looking at is actually on the left side here, right? As it goes around the 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 uh,
That's
the
correct.
yard.
Yeah. Yeah. That is correct.
And I saw that it was. I don't think I have the picture, but it was a transistor radio that started the fire.
Yeah, so I always mention this in the presentations I do. It's every fire we have has one. Every fire, every department has a point of origin. This one just feels a little different, because all the pain and the reason we're here today was because of a transistor radio setting on a setting in the back of the garage. So, had something terrible not happened, we probably wouldn't be talking about that radio. But yeah, that was the area of origin in the backside of the garage you're looking at there.
Okay, so that again, this is around the corner on the Bravo Charlie corner of the house.
Correct.
So first arriving, you guys weren't first arriving, right?
No, the call initially came out as an automatic alarm. In our system, an automatic alarm would be a single truck response, and that would have been the aerial, the truck. We didn't have the tiller at the time, so it was a 107-foot Pierce straight stick. So they initially got dispatched. Shortly after dispatch, we were upgraded to a regular alarm, and that's when my company, coming out of the same house, Station 71, that's when my company got assigned, and I was on Engine 71. I was the captain.
So they sent ladder 71 first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They sent them because it initially came out as that still alarm, which for the automatic alarm, but it was upgraded quickly within a minute or so, I believe.
And what's that staffing on ladder 71?
So it was a staffing of four. So the ladder had a staffing of four, and the engine was a staffing of three. That is our minimum then, and it remains our minimum today.
So ladder 71 got there like just ahead of you.
Yeah, yeah. They were probably maybe 2 minutes ahead of us. It wasn't very long at all.
When they got there, they led off with a hand line.
Yeah, so battalion chief got kind of arrived with them. Reported fire showing from the Bravo side in a downstairs garage. Um, they pulled a line stretched around that Bravo side. The battalion chief at the time uh, thought that they were going to search. So he assigned my company, Engine 71, to be fire attack. Well, through the course of the next 30 seconds or so, and the battalion chief figured out that they were making a push on the fire. So that's when the incident changed. One of those potentially a falling domino, right? That every line of duty death seems to have, and that put my company, Engine 71, in a position to do search because they were getting reports of a elderly man and a dog in the residence.
Okay, so ladder 71 fire attack, engine 71 now was assigned upstairs to go do a search and check for extension.
Yeah, yeah, our primary assignment was search, but we also needed to report what we had. Um, so that's how it kind of shook out at the beginning of the incident.
Was anybody else there yet, or just you two companies operating right now?
It was just our companies operating initially, but the remaining companies, the one from Shawnee and I believe one from Lenexa and one from Overland Park, they were there very quickly. I mean, our responses, we get an effective response force in within minutes of each other. So it wasn't very long we were operating alone.
So this is the route you took here.
Yeah. So this was John and I went to that front door. The front door had a security type door, and one of the things that I really stress when we do the class now, or anytime I talk about it, is in 2010, and it always feel weird, Tony, talking about it in 2010 like it was 100 years ago. But in some of the things we did back then, it kind of feels that long, right? We in 2010 we didn't talk about reading smoke. Everything we did was based on things we had done in the past. I knew it was a pretty well involved fire down in the basement. But when we made the front door and I took out the side lights, I had heavy black turbulent smoke coming out of both windows at a rate it probably shouldn't have. Um, and I always stress that when I talk about this fire is that if you go in this house as you walk in that front door, that's a 20-foot vestibule there that's totally open to the top. And what we know now, or at least what we talk about a lot more now, is that smoke should have told me more than it told me that night. And I really preach that as we go through this fire, because there was a fire on the opposite side of that house. But why was I getting the conditions I was when I opened that door?
All right, so you had smoke conditions coming out of this front door, which you think you picked up on that then, or was it still kind of like, oh, we're going to go in here?
Yeah, Tony, I wish I had some, pearls of wisdom that I could say, yeah, I knew exactly I just knew we had a well-developed fire. But, in retrospect, and definitely knowing what we know now, why was I
Yeah.
getting that level of smoke? I would expect to see smoke, but this was a different level of smoke. This felt like that pre-flashover smoke. So to answer your question, I just thought we had a well-developed fire, but I think there's some things we could have done to improve the visibility and the conditions that night that we didn't do.
So you said that there was a report that there was an elderly male and a dog inside.
That's correct.
When the latter got there, did they have any reports that anybody was out?
No, they didn't have any reports that anybody was out. It was strictly people were adamant that somebody was in there, that an old man lived there with his dog. So that was what we were operating on. We didn't have any other information except for that.
All right, so you forced entry, or you made it into the front door here. You had to force entry, right?
Right. Yeah. That security gate, or the security storm door, was locked, as was the front door. And you'll see in this picture, you can kind of see that even for our area here, those side lights are they're bigger than I would say the average side lights are in our area. So I was able to clear out those windows, and I just reached in and unlocked the door. And that's how we made the door. But yeah, we had to force entry.
All right, so you made entry. Conditions got better when you opened the door, or was it still top to bottom smoke?
It was top to bottom smoke. Really through the entirety of the time John and I were in there, the conditions never improved. Uh, and knowing what I know now, and knowing some of the things we do about controlling the door, and flow path and things like that, we could have drastically improved our situation. But no, it was not It was not improving at all. As a matter of fact, it was getting worse.
All right, so you headed down this hallway here.
Yeah. We went in on a right hand search. John had the imaging camera with him. He went in first. We don't do that anymore. That was one of the things that changed from this incident. The officer has it. That was less defined for us in 2010. So John had that, and we started down the right hand. We stayed on the right hand. We make our way down that hallway. And for some reason that night, which is not typical for us, we took a line with us. So we took a dry line, which again, I wish I had some, more pearls of wisdom to say this is why I did that, other than we knew we had a good amount of fire below us. So we took a line in there. We took it on that right-hand search. We make it to where the end of that red line is, and we hear a dog. The dog was making a moaning noise. It was not moving. Had we not been so close to the door, we probably would have foregone taking the dog. But we were able to grab the dog. John took the dog out. We went out together. We went right back in the exact same way. We dropped the dog on the front porch. We went in the exact same way. We got to just about where it says office, and John said, "Help me." And it was not in a muffled voice. It was in a voice like you and I are talking. And that was the last thing we ever heard of John. We didn't hear coughing, choking, yelling, nothing. As a matter of fact, they did not hear a pass device until they got right on top of him.
So, all right, so you were with him. He said, "Help me," and then he got off the line.
Yeah. So the line, we left the nozzle at where the end of that red line is on the illustration.
Went back out.
We left
Came
it
back
right
in.
there. Yeah. And we came in the exact same way. So we were straddling that line. As soon as he said, "Help me," I went to the right, felt a wall. I went to the left, felt a wall. I reached out in front, nothing. So in my mind, he had to come over me. I mean, we were in a relatively narrow hallway that I could touch both ends. What I didn't know, which has been a tough thing, as you can see, that hallway is pretty narrow. It's been a tough thing. I didn't know the office was there, or I'm sorry, the sitting room was there. And you can see on the next slide, that illustration, that black dot
Yeah.
shows where John was.
Oh, he was in the walk-in closet.
He was in the walk-in closet, and then based on the information I had at the time, I believed that the only place he could go was in front of me. The floor was fine. I mean, we encountered a good amount of heat, zero visibility, but I didn't have any reason to believe that he fell through the floor, at least
Yeah.
in the area I was in. But I didn't know that double door was there, and that is the door that John slipped in.
The double door on the left of the hand
On the
line,
left. Right.
the sitting room, and then he went further in the sitting room to the walk-in closet.
Yeah, and I believe, if I remember right, in that area of the home, there was something like 7 or 8 doors in that
Wow.
area.
Yeah, I can see that. It looks like there's a bunch of stuff going on in that area there.
Yeah, an incredible amount.
So, the basement, that's the basement door, which is where, but underneath the steps going down.
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. So then we see that the cars. So there was a good fire load in the garage in the basement.
Yeah, yeah. So the old man that lived there, he collected antique cars. And so we all know what a car fire in a parking lot, or even a car or two in a garage, where we got fire venting out the garage. We know what the smoke is for that. Well, we had 3 cars going in that garage, and as you look at the illustration, you can kind of see how the house is set up. And the reason I share that picture there, of the door, is you can see the line. You can see the line of demarcation there with the smoke. That is something in 2010, again, we didn't talk about a lot. Had we had the forethought, and I hope we would today at least consider it, had we had the forethought to control that door, would have helped our visibility tremendously, because there was never any fire on the entry level of the floor. But as the fire, you had an unchecked fire in the basement on the Bravo Charlie corner. You had the man tells us, he's like, I leave the door open all the time so that my dog can go up and down. He said the dog has free reign of the basement and the garage coming up. So he would leave the door to the garage open. He would leave the door that you're looking at there open. So John and I come in that door,
Yeah.
and as I mentioned before, it explains why we had the conditions we did.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
didn't control that door. So that's always and that's something we didn't talk about in 2010.
Okay. So again, you can see some hand marks on the wall. Is this the hallway, or was this the sitting room, or where was those? That looks like maybe that. Again, one of the other doors, is that on the way to the sitting room, or is this out by the hand line?
So the top picture is it. If you pan to just the left with that picture, if you were able to pan, you would see that there'd be an evidence marker. That's where the dog was found. So that was kind of down the hallway, and that's basically where we left the nozzle. Um, the sitting room we would have passed, and you'll see an evidence marker there. That's where they found John's glove. I believe that's where the glove was, and just beyond that door was where they found John.
I gotcha. All right. So obviously, it was quite a fire.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it became well involved after we got John. Uh, we they went into a defensive posture. We weren't part of the firefighting operations at that time. I had totally ran out of air. Our companies were spent from trying to find John, but it's an interesting part of the fire for me. I had the good fortune of listening to one of your other episodes here in the last week or so, where you had John Sullivan on from Worcester, Massachusetts. John and I have been friends for many years. In well prior to John's incident, we had done some work together, and I always think about John and Chief McNamee
Mm-hmm.
in relation to our fire, because at what point were we going to have to make a hard decision? Had they not found John, when was that Mike McNamee moment where
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody's standing at the door saying no more? And I always talk about that because I think it's important for us in the fire service to know it is how quick one could turn into two into four into six. And I just always think about that. And story, as you see, it ended up to be a significant amount of fire in the building.
So okay. So he yells, "I need help." You reach around, but he's gone.
He's gone. Yeah.
Did you call a mayday? Did he? Because that was the last thing he said, right? Was "I need help."
Yeah. And I called the Mayday. And it was challenging Mayday because I didn't have any information. I could
Right.
tell them where we were, but I didn't have that. I didn't have that concrete information that, hey, John fell through the floor right here. All I had was, we were here. He said, "Help me," and he was gone, just like that. That literally is the last thing we ever heard from John. When they found him through the investigations, his he had a radio on him. It was on the correct channel. It was on. So he had everything he needed to make that. What the doctors tell us, that he probably, in those conditions, he may have had about 30 seconds. So they believe that once he vomited, um, he took a big gulp and burned his airway, is what they would believe, rendering him unable to say anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. So, okay. So you called the Mayday. Was there a RIT team established by then, or was there crews? There was crews available to come in and help.
Yeah, there were plenty of crews available to come in and help, and a RIT had not been set up yet. This was pretty early on in the incident, uh, so it was a company in proximity, which they kind of took over the Mayday, and again, it wasn't an activation. It was more of, they had gotten an assignment to help us search, and by the time they were ready to come in and assist with the search, John had gone missing and the Mayday had been called.
How long did it take to find him?
I believe it was about 12 minutes. They searched everywhere. We were frantically trying to listen for a pass device, and for those that are familiar with NIOSH reports, they do a couple of things. They give recommendations to the fire service as a whole. They give recommendations to um, to your specific department. And the third thing they do is give recommendations to manufacturers. Was there
Yeah.
something that didn't work? And no one's ever been able to quantify this for me or tell me this is what happened. But at that time, we had Draeger air packs, and the pass device sounded from a thing called a Sentinel, basically hung off of you here, similar to the air packs today. But that's where it sounded from. He was laying on that, and it was so muffled that they didn't hear it till they got right on top of him. Well, as we all know today, the air, it sounds from a couple different places. One of them on the neck of the bottle where it's protected, and I've never been told that's why, but it stands to reason that that's why the change was made.
Yeah. So okay. So 20 minutes or 12 minutes to find him. How did they? When they found him, you said that his mask was off.
Yeah, yeah, his mask was off, his helmet, and a glove. The this was early iterations of air packs that would give you information, and the air pack did say that he was turned it off and on about 4 times, uh, likely
Wow.
as a likely as a result of smoke inhalation, poisoning, things like that. But yeah, they found him in that state.
Okay. So how long did it take to remove him? It probably didn't take too long.
No, that was immediately. Two guys were on him. They did the old, one up top, one on the legs, and they got out. So they were out in 30 seconds, a minute. As you can see, I mean, it's a 6,000 square foot house, but I
Yeah.
lost John in 300 feet of it. We That is where we operated nearly the entire time during the search. They went upstairs, they went downstairs. Um, but again, everything was directed in other places besides exactly where he was.
Right. Because there was no pass device sound.
No, there was no sound, nothing.
At that time, um, What was the fire conditions at that time?
So we had the fire was remained. I mean, they had a 2.5 and an inch and 3/4 on it, but given the amount of fuel load and frankly straight fuel from the cars, they just couldn't get a handle on it. It wasn't long after the Mayday, that fire went up above into the eave, probably through a soffit vent there, and was just running the attic. It was a clay roof, so clay tile, so it was really heavy roof to begin with. We had a good amount of heat, and again, zero visibility the entire time that I was in there. So we weren't winning for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we got him out, and again, in the investigation, it appears that he may have thrown up in his face piece.
He did. Uh, that's what they concluded, and it definitely what happened. And they surmised when he did, he immediately took it off trying to clear it, and the conditions were so bad at the time that he just couldn't recover. Again, be it a result of burns to the throat or the smoke conditions. He was just never able to get that mask back on.
So there was evidence of burns in the throat.
Yeah, yeah, there was evidence of burns in the throat, so much so that they believe that he was able to get those words of "help me out," and that was it. They don't think he even physically was able to do anything beyond that.
So after that, obviously the fire department was stunned, right?
Yeah.
What kind of recovery was there in the fire department?
So we did pretty well. Um, as far as we stood together. There wasn't much of the blame game going on. It was a lot of confusion, and where do we go from here? And again, because of how we operate, it affected our response partners nearly as much as our organization because, we run with them much like you would run in a bigger city with a fire department or one of your own stations on the other end of town. I mean, that's how familiar we were. We did a lot of things, and obviously the low hanging fruit was figure out how to clear your mask when you've got vomit. And I've always tried to take it one step further and do some education around the importance of keeping your mask on. And when that mask comes off, you are on borrowed time. Depending on the conditions, you may not have any time at all. So, kind of taking it one step further, yeah, we need to know how to clear our mask, but bigger than that, like not ever having the mask come off, right? So that's kind of what we've done, but we've recovered pretty well. I think we're a stronger fire department for what happened, but obviously, I would like to go back and change some things.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. What with that in mind, so what is we'll talk about that in a second, but so John, how old was he when he passed?
So John was 33 years old at the time. He left behind a wife, Amber, and at that time, a 6-month-old and a 2.5-year-old uh, little boy, and a 6-month-old little girl. As a matter of fact, I talked to Brecken, his son, not too long ago. And he's getting ready to graduate,
Yeah,
coming I think next year. So they never knew him. Brecken can I think Brecken knows him mostly through stories about his dad, but Emma for sure never knew him. So they lost out on a lot through that time.
Yeah, no, and I think it really with that. So one of the things I like to do with the guests who come on, and I didn't tell you this ahead of time, but I know you've done some presentations with this. You have two or three things you want people to get to really take from the life of John and this incident specifically.
So, so the things I would say, Tony, is one is train. Train. At that time in our organization, I don't think we trained as hard as we should have, or even the right way. We did training, but I'm not sure it was meaningful as it should have been. So that's one thing I always harp on, and two is doesn't matter the size of your organization. I think we get in this trap sometimes of things only happen in these big cities, and it's just not the case. I mean, you're susceptible to it anywhere. So I'm a big believer in expect to see fire. I see guys that get real amped up and get excited and get ahead of themselves. I don't think a garbage man does that when he sees garbage. So I think we should operate with the same level of anticipation and professionalism that a garbage man does. So those are a couple of the big things. The others is what is the fire telling you? What you, be it by conditions you create, maybe using a fan or something like that, or just the rapid development of the fire. What is the fire telling you? That is something I feel like I could have done better that night in 2010. Is I could have changed our conditions, right? I could have made it a more tenable situation for John and I could have done it relatively quickly. You close that door, given that we didn't have fire. Fire wasn't coming up the stairway. It was just the products of combustion, and I could have changed that. So those would be the things that right off the top of my head that I would recommend every fire department consider.
So dig into that training component that you talk about. So do you think that it's because we get into it's the same old thing? It's like we check the box that
Oh
we're
yeah,
not. But is you think that's one of the? I mean, one of the things again. I told you, but today we did some live fire with the on duty shift, and one of the things we can't do is replicate those conditions, right? And
right.
so how can we and have you guys found a way to try and really test our people in training, because I do think it is it isn't as hard, right? It's definitely not. We can't seem to get it as hard in training as we do in a real incident.
Agreed. The thing that I've seen that has come potentially the closest, and I haven't done it personally, so I'm going a little bit off of hearsay, but are they like the FDTN type trainings? I think they're able to replicate a little bit of the heat, the things like that. So those are the things I think they've gotten that are better. I'm not saying that the towers, those are great too. They definitely serve a function, but from what I understand, those cargo type containers, they're able to get a little more. Further, I talk all the time about. I think a lot of the times we're spun up before we even leave the house, and it's a harder to get your wits about you when you've just run from the table, you've done a dead sprint to the truck, you get in the truck, and you get going and you hear a working fire and victims trapped, and now you've sprinted to the truck, your adrenaline's through the roof, I think we're sometimes, at least, I've seen we're our own worst enemies. Like, we need to be the ones that are more calm, and we should never be more excited than the people that call 911. And unfortunately, in my career, I've either been a party to, or I've seen people be as excited as the caller, if not more so. So I don't have a perfect answer, but if we can get as close as we can, and then again, expect to see fire. Be in a mindset. We get to the rig with purpose, but expect all those things. That way, when we get there, we can be the calming force that we need to be.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. No, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story. I know it was a brief. It sounds like you have a presentation, and I hope that I get a chance to see that somewhere and dig deeper into to what you experience and the experience of your department. But thank you for giving us a little bit about John, because we that's
Yeah.
one thing I think that you mentioned, right, is that yes, it happens in big cities, but it's these guys, right? It's the John Glazers that are getting lost, right?
Right.
It's Richard Shelter. I don't know if you have heard about Richard. Was a volunteer outside of Charlotte that
Mm,
it was just the anniversary of his death, and he died in a strip shopping center. So
yeah.
those are the guys, right, that we lose track of, and
Right.
we all know about the Worcester Six or Charleston Nine and Black
Right.
Sunday and those things, but there are firefighters in smaller places that are facing just as dangerous, maybe even more so, right, than some of these other places, and are making the ultimate sacrifice. So
Yeah.
again, one of the things about this is we said we would never forget, and I never knew about John, right? So I don't want to forget. I want to learn. And I want our viewers to learn about these guys that are out there, facing, uh, giving their lives and for their communities. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, and I want to go into this. So guys, there again is what's going to come out with this month's Mayday Monday. Um, print this thing off, put it on the kitchen table, and talk about it. This is after I did this. I presented this back FDIC 2018. I think one of the guys that was in the audience was at this. This was his fire department, and in recruit school they do this. They have the recruits bring in their favorite can of soup, and they pour it into the face piece, and they practice clearing that issue and learning that you can still get air, and you can still survive, and do whatever you can, like the chief said, do whatever you can to not take that face piece off, and whatever you can to really not break the seal. So this month, get out there, find your soup, pour it into your face piece, and practice this stuff. One of the tough parts that we have, of course, is that if you vomit into your face piece, the air is already flowing out of the regulator, so you have that in your favor, right? But with this drill, you're not going to have air flowing when you pour that in there and then put it on. But give it a shot. It's yeah. You think it might be disgusting, and everybody says, right, don't eat more than your mask can handle, and we all laugh about that, but it really is a life-threatening emergency, and you want to practice this before it happens to you. um, so get out there, practice this skill drill, and do it in the honor of the memory of John Glaser and the Shawnee Fire Department. So again, Chief, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I know it's right after you're getting off work, right? So it's 5:30
Yeah.
out there, so you need to get
Yeah.
home and see your family.
Yeah.
and tell them that you had this guy give you a cold call one day, and, and you came on. But this is the kind of stuff we need in Mayday Monday and the firefighter survival campaign. And it was a great story, and I appreciate your time.
If you ever want the extended version, I'd be happy to make that happen for you. But I appreciate everything that you're doing for the fire service as a whole.
No, it's a labor of love, and unfortunately, there's so many people that I have highlighted in this thing that were friends of mine or are friends of mine. So, but this is one right. We're one big family, and you're a friend. You're a friend. So John was a friend. It sounds like he was a firefighter after my own heart. So thank you so much again. And here, let's go let's go have a memory to John.
Yep. Yep. I appreciate it. I know that Chief Jimmy Walker from, well, now Independence invited you for some barbecue. So if you get to Kansas City sometime, I want to get in on that.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in. I have Chief Ruben there in KC. I have to go by and see him. I was there. I went and shoot, Rich Mosher.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
He
um,
knows
um,
more about fire trucks than anybody I've ever met.
so I came to Olathe. I did a presentation with Dennis. We came out there and did a presentation out there. We got some good barbecue. But yeah, no, I'll make it out there and we'll come see you. So we can talk more about this, and I'll come watch your show. All right, it looks like we lost the chief, but thank you all for coming. This is the May 2025 Mayday Monday. Remember, live to train and train to live, and get out there and do something. Firefighter survival starts with the basics, and it can't get much more basic than our SCBA training and this one. So give it a shot, get your favorite soup, and get out and practice. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month.